Our mission trip to Alaska was very different for me because a lot of the mission trips I've taken in the past were very much construction based, building houses. And my past 2 mission trips with Christ the King have been more so based on showing kids what Christ can do in their lives and what they're currently doing, what he's currently doing in their lives. During our lessons that primarily Ryan and I put on together, there was always this group of 5 or 6 kids that sat down, and we had a couple float in here or there, but there was always about 6 of them that would sit and they knew the answers to all the questions. Does everybody remember what our word of the day yesterday was? Yes, it was believe. Yes, it was listen. And that was always exciting to hear that they were just soaking all of that information in and really taking it to heart. It was really just amazing.
The first day I got to meet a group of teenage girls and, just talk to them, get to know them. And, I actually throughout the trip, I thought they were just like, oh, it's that one chick. But apparently they actually looked up to me and liked me, and that taught me a good lesson about having faith in God and not being afraid when he tells you to do something, because it's his timing, and his timing's perfect. I gave them my Instagram, and I'm really excited to share God with them, share Christ. And
the theme of our week was God has a plan for your life. And each time we brought Abraham, we had Noah, we had David, Samuel, and Jesus. And it's like you're telling the kids that, even though your situation might not be good, and most of these kids are not, you're telling them that God has a plan for your life. We're there sort of to start planting those seeds. Personally, for me, you see that someone else is taking an interest in that community, and you know that even if you planted the smallest little seed in that community, it's going to be watered by those people there. So that's exciting.
Some of the sightseeing we saw, we got to do stuff with the other groups and volunteers that were on the mission trip. We got to know them on a glacier trip. From a lady that was staying and helping out at the house, she told us about a Lake Itanka, and that was a really beautiful drive and trip. So we did a lot of hiking and that in our spare time. We set it up similar to a Christ the King VBS. We did a lesson, a song, games, and a craft. And then it was a little more open to them. They could go where they preferred. So if they didn't want to do the craft, we didn't make them. They went and played games, or they threw Frisbee around a lot, or they had a tire swing that they all just did for hours on end and loved. And Foursquare, we can't forget Foursquare actually. Before the trip, we set it up that Emma and I were doing crafts. Katie was doing a song. She learned a song each day. And then Ryan and John were doing the lesson, and then Dave and Ben were doing games. So it stuck to that kind of. John was definitely the Foursquare guy. He was in there with them every time. We all had to find time to pass out food, so Ryan really took ownership over that and making sure everyone was getting fed and everything. Kind of when I got to the craft, I stayed there. Emma excelled with the teenage girls. She went up and talked to them, and they just invited her in. And then Katie would just pull her guitar out, and that made the girls so much comfortable. All the kids just wanted to hear her play, and she let them kind of play with it a little too.
We had a relatively small team of 7 people that God put together, the talents that complemented one another. So we had music, we had activities, we had drama, we had leadership, we had all those talents in a relatively small group. So before we left, I really was reminding them that God was putting us together as a smaller portion of the body of Christ the King going out on mission. So that was a cool portion of what I saw God doing in creating the team that we sent out. The cool part is the church that's working there bought a house across the street and wants to be in that community. So as we're building relationships that we knew were only going to last a week, we could see the bigger picture that they were going to plug into this community. The pastor is going going to have his office literally across the center street from this park, which is kind of the center of this community. We built some relationships with that church. Pastor Ben there invited us to come back. So next year, whether we go to that community or not, there's definitely an interest in participation in the future. Whether we go back to there or not, it's a body that we've connected with up there, and it's definitely a community in need. So that's a neat connection that we have from there, both from what we looking back, but then potentially looking forward. So I think that's kind of cool.